Hey guys, it's Katie. So I did this pendant, which was one I made a while back, and then I was requested to make another one for someone to give as a gift. So they're going to purchase that one for me. So I already, if I was going to make another one, I figured I'd show you how to do it. Now I have another one that I made that someone asked me, they wanted to buy it, and they want to buy one for their friend who is an artist as well. So she likes to give her other artists gifts, and she's across the country. So this was the pendant I made a while back, and she asked me to make her two of these. So I'm going to give her this one. This is the initial one I made. And then I am going to make another one for her friend. And again, it's September, mid-September, and the holidays are coming up. So if I was going to make another one, I'm going to show you how I made it. Pretty simple piece. Again, not too complex, but, you know, just putting things together and coming up with something, and she really likes it. So again, it's not always about what you love. It's about what someone else is going to like, okay? So first thing we're going to need is some scrap glaze, because we need to get the under part done. And in this one, I'm going to use some blues. I have like this pale blue. I have this color blue. I have like a gray tone, and then I also have this veneer that I used in the past, so I'm going to use a little of that and get some greens in there as well. And so we're going to chop these up just like I've done tons and tons of times. So both of these two pendants were made with scrap colors. So, you know, you can use your scrap colors a lot, you know. Why throw them out if you can get a cool looking color out of it? I mean, seriously, I could probably open a pack and get something close to this, but if I can use this blue, why not? So in this case, we're going to do similarly to what we do a lot. We're going to chop these up into little pieces and mix them up. It doesn't need to be perfect, however you want to chop it up. Finer, thicker, really doesn't matter. We could re-chop it again too after we mix it up and see what we like. Just toss them in kind of a pile here. And that gray is very similar, so I might not use much of that. Let's use some of this blue. And people do this chopping technique with like faux stones and different things. It's a great way to use your scraps. It's a great way to make lentil beads. I do this all the time when I need a base for something, or a backing, or just gotta swirl it up. Which is what we're going to do now. So, you know, and on my tutorials, I don't like to cut anything out, because if people are new, they may need these parts. If you don't need these parts, feel free to skip forward. Most cell phones, if you're watching on your cell phone, if you double tap the screen twice, it'll jump 10 seconds. You can drag ahead and go as far as you want ahead with that. You can also hit the 3 buttons at the top of your screen, on the top corner of the video. I think it's the top right corner. And hit playback speed, and you can speed me up, though I'll probably sound like a chipmunk in it, because it's going to speed up my voice too. But you don't have to watch every little step. But for people who do need to watch every little step, it's there. If I take it out and they need it, they can't watch it. If I leave it in and you don't need it, you can always skip it. And this green one has some translucent in it, you know. We're just going to make a veneer, maybe some more green. We're going to make a veneer out of this. Now you will need something to dome this over. I didn't have anything metal when I first did this, and I still don't, because I figured out something I could use. So when I was doing mixed media, I had glass cabochons or glass doming things, and that's what I started to put my clay on. So this is it right here. It's just a doming, it's a glass cabochon. It's quite large, it's a large one, and it is, I forget what they call it, because there's some that aren't perfectly measured, and there's others that are, and they're more expensive when they have them measured perfectly. So I domed that on top of this, is what I originally did. Okay, so I'm just going to squish this up, roll it up in a ball, and see if it's what I like. And if it's not, roll it back out, and chop it up again, stick it back together again. As many times as you want to achieve the look you want. You know, the more times you stack it and put it back together, the finer obviously it's going to get. And I feel like I need some white or something in here. I don't want to go too dark because it's going to be sitting behind everything else, but I think I want some pieces of just some nice bright white for some reason. Because these are all kind of in the same tone. They're all kind of muted colors. So what if we stick some white in here? I don't really have a plan in mind. I'm just gonna grab some scrap colors and stick it together. Now, a lot of this is not going to show, obviously. I mean, you can't see much of it. I think I'm going to chop that up one more time. Not really for the other colors, but for the, you see how they're getting finer? For the white. Yeah, I was using the right side of my blade. Don't mind my nails, I just painted them today when I was finishing that other pendant, and I haven't showered yet, so I haven't cleaned them up. It's kind of messy to do an ombre technique, but it looks cute. Okay. Kind of looks like the earth. Let's swirl it and see what happens. So I'm going to use an acrylic block here, just a really old junky one. Maybe put it there. Let's swirl it and see if we can get some clay moving. I like to swirl it. It just kind of moves the clay. It makes it a little softer than these solid hunks. Mine always gets weird shaped. And then usually it started to swirl there, and it started to swirl. I'll roll it back up and swirl it in a different spot. And that, I don't know, I just like the way that looks. It just kind of brings the clay together a little bit. It just starts to move it around so it doesn't look so rigid. Okay, that'll work. That'll be fine. Okay, so we need to flatten this out in the pasta machine. I'm going to do a setting, the thickest setting. that's what we have one way, and I think I'm going to fold it and go in the other direction. Let's see if I have enough there. Okay, I'm going to go with size 2, and I'm going to stretch it a little bit more from here to here because I need a little wider. Because a 0 and a 1 on my machine's like the same thing. Just pretty much until I get enough clay to cover this thing. Almost. I'm going to go a tiny bit more. Nah, maybe I'll just stretch it. Or maybe I'll fold it and then run it through again. Because if I fold it here, there's going to be more clay and I'll stretch it there. That's enough. And you can do whatever you want. You could use a veneer here, whatever you want. It doesn't need to be fancy though, because you're not going to see much of it. And then I'm just smoothing it down. So if you use a metal tin or whatever, you could use whatever you want. I'm just kind of smoothing it over the piece, making sure there's no air bubbles trapped underneath. And I'm going to bake it on this because this is glass. And then I'll take my blade, and we have to trim this excess off. Just quickly at first, get the big excess off. It's my old blade. It's getting kind of junky. I haven't sharpened it in a while. And then just smooth that edge over just to get the edge a little finer. You don't want to go too thin on this though, because you have to take it off, you know, and when you take it off, sometimes they can break. I haven't had one break when I'm using good quality clay. Fimo, Kato, Primo. I had one break when I was using Sculpey 3, which is pretty much when I first started, and that's when I did this. When I started doming these for mixed media projects, really is what I started for. Is doing mixed media. And then I'm going to just cut it kind of on an angle so it's a blunted edge, more of a blunted edge, like that, rather than cutting it like this and having it a square. See, if you cut it like this, it's a square edge. See what I mean? So I kind of am, but again, this is all going to be covered up, so I'm just kind of getting a blunt, kind of more of an angled edge there. And that way when we wrap the clay over it, it's not such a harsh line. I'll pat it down a little bit. Just kind of smooth it off. So it's kind of a nicer taper rather than a square 90-degree angle edge type. Get all your fingerprints out of it. And we'll buff this up after so it's nice and shiny underneath, which will be a nice contrast to the outer layer. Okay, so that's what will be underneath, okay? Now my fingers, because I'm in the dental field, I wash my hands so much, my fingers are fairly rough, so I can never get a really smooth finish. I've seen some people and they're like, oh, just use your fingers and smooth. When I do that, I get grooves all over. Not fingerprints, but grooves, because my hands are rough. The only part that's not quite rough is my palm, but then I still get... That's what happens when you wash your hands before a patient, after a patient, anytime you take off your gloves during a patient, before you go to the bathroom, after you go to the bathroom, anytime you eat. And you see a patient every hour on the hour, and if you're doing kids, every half hour. So you probably wash your hands 50 or more times a day with antibacterial soap, which kills them, or medical grade soap. Okay, so I'll put that on a tile. I'll tent it in the oven. Usually I'll just take a piece of paper, a plain piece of paper, and I'll just go like that in the oven. Just lay it on top of it. I'll bake that for a full hour. at 275 degrees. That's my normal go-to temp if I'm using like a mix of clays. So 275 for a full hour, and then we'll get the next part going. There's a little indent right there, which we won't really notice. Okay, so there's that. And we're going to be baking this again, so you don't need to go a full hour, but when you pry it off of your thing, whether it's a metal tin or whatever, if it's a little weaker, you could risk breaking it. I don't know. So maybe not a full hour, just maybe like 40 minutes, 50 minutes or so, if you're worried about breaking it when you're taking it off something, because this does wrap around a little bit. It's not like it's just on the top here where it'll pop off easy. You know, I'm going to actually have to get up under it and lift it off. If you're worried about breaking it, bake it longer. If you're not worried, bake it shorter, because we're going to bake it again. So keep any excess scraps you have, or you could just use regular scraps. Before I actually get that in the oven, I want to pick my brown color that kind of goes with this. I was kind of looking through. I don't prefer the reddish browns for some reason. I'm not a huge fan of the reddish browns. Sorry about that. I was just trying to smooth off anything with my parchment. Just dented it a little bit. See, you should stop when you're ahead, right? And just round that off. You can pull the clay and stuff where you want it. So I don't prefer the reddish browns, but I think this is burnt umber. It has a red tone to me, and it doesn't quite go. So what I'm going to do is add some blue to this. I think if I add a little blue to that, it will change the tone of that brown into more of a gray brown. So I'm going to add maybe that much blue, okay? Let me keep a piece of this brown off to the side so we can compare it. I'm going to mix this up, and then I'll see if I like that. I want this more of a brown, but more of like a deep, more of like this color brown. See how it's more of a gray brown right here on the side? I don't know if I have anything else to show you. Like this color, but this one was a Sculpey 3, which is why I'm not giving her this one, because this I made months and months ago and it was out of Sculpey 3, but I like this color brown, so I'm going to try to make it that more that color. Okay, so I'm going to mix this up. This, I think, like I said, I think it's burnt umber, which is one of the browns I have. I don't use brown a lot. And I'm going to add that little bit of scrap blue to it, and we'll see if I can get a better tone. Okay. So, I know that's hard to tell the difference, but there's enough of a difference to where I'm happy with that. Okay. So I think that will go fine with this piece here. Okay. So I'll get that in the oven now that I have a color picked out, and probably tomorrow, because what time is it? It's 12:15, 16 in the morning. So I'll probably do that, finish this guy up tomorrow, but I'll get this in the oven because there's no way I'm probably staying up for another 40 minutes. I don't know. Sometimes I surprise myself. I'm thinking I'm exhausted, but my mind can't sleep, and then I end up staying up. So let me get this in the oven. I'll stop playing with it. Okay guys, so bear with me, my washer's going upstairs. It's out of the oven, and I'm going to sand it and buff it now. I'm not going to sand on this video because it adds a lot of time. Not much, but a couple minutes, you know. And I've showed you it plenty of times. So I'm going to sand, wet dry sand. If you're dry sanding, you definitely want to be wearing a mask because you shouldn't be breathing in clay. But I usually wet sand, plus it keeps my sandpaper cleaner longer. So I'm going to do 400, 600, 800, 1000, and then 1500. That's all I'm going to go up to. And then I'm going to buff with my Dremel. If you don't have a Dremel, I would go up higher, obviously, to get a nice sheen behind. So I'm going to use my orange bit that I've showed you many times, and then my white one after, and buff this up. So I'm going to do that now, and then I'll show you when it's done. Okay, so it's now buffed and sanded. And I took it off the piece. It popped off really easy. I forgot, I also have one of the Sculpey, I think it's called a hollow bead maker. It's like got those domes on it. You could use that too. That would work fine. But this is what I did the first time, so I just remembered that. It's been a long time. Like I said, I probably made this back in April, May or April, and it's September. So I kind of forgot. So hey, we'll work it out together. So next I just have some scrap clay, kind of junk colors, and we're going to fill in the inside. Now this is optional, you don't need to fill in the inside, but I'm going to, so that way it's kind of a solid piece here. So I mean, I'm going to use some Bacon Bond or some kind of liquid clay just to make sure it adheres in there, just a little bit. You don't need a lot, just a little bit to make it a little tacky, just like that. And then we're going to fill it in with some kind of scrap clay. You know, a great use in here would be Sculpey 3, because you don't need it to be crazy strong. You're just trying to fill it in a little bit. It would probably actually work well in here because it's a solid piece. Just throwing that out there if you got a bunch of junk Sculpey 3. I'm just kind of fitting it all in there, and then I'm going to take my blade and trim off the ends here, or the excess. And you can have it in a little bit, you can have it domed out, you can have it, you know, however you want it. Just an idea, you know, this is just an idea for you to run with. Now I don't quite remember everything I did on this because it's been a while. But I figured if I was going to make something, I might as well show you and maybe give you inspiration for something else. Okay. So now that it's filled in, on this type, I did use a bale sunk into it, okay? And these, I believe are glue-on bales, they're called. And I don't use these a lot now, but for this case I'm going to use it because I think it will be easier. Plus this thing is going to be so wide that drilling a hole through it would be kind of tricky, and you need a really big jump ring. So I'm going to put a bale on it, and I think maybe I'll go up here. And then we filled it in, so now I can just set that guy right on there, and it should sit right on there like that. But before I put him on for sure, I just wanted to show you, we're going to make the front, we're going to make the face of this. So I have that brown that we used yesterday, or we made yesterday. For you, it's in the same video, so it doesn't really matter. I'm going to roll it out because I have some pasta line from my pasta machine, some lines. Ooh. And now I have some white on it. That's okay. Don't freak out. It will be fine. Okay, so all we're going to do now is take a craft knife or something, and we're going to make lines in it. This is how I achieve these lines. Now, I believe I did this on setting 0 on my pasta machine, so these lines are thicker and it's deeper. This one I have on setting 3. So what I'm going to do here, and you can also like put your template down so you kind of know where to make the lines. It doesn't really matter. I only did them on the front. You could do it on the back too if you wanted. Okay, so we're going to just begin by making some cuts in here. Some random cuts. Okay, and then I do believe this is what I did. I took just some kind of tool or something and opened them up a little bit. Now you could actually cut out, okay? You could actually cut out, like, you know, a spot here if you wanted to. You could cut these out if you want some of them wider, because we're going to stretch this over. And we're going to open this up in a second. Okay, so then when you pick it up, you can actually like pull it apart. See that? Like it's this torn look. Now I'm not applying any bacon bond to the front because this will be wrapped around. So then I'm just going to try to lay this on here. And I can also cut some more in a minute once I get it on and decide if I like the look of it or not. Now I don't want to cut wrapping around the edge like that. I don't want to cut doing that. So either I'm going to stick this one back together. And I wouldn't worry about your fingerprints and stuff like that at this point because we're going to texture this too. Or I'm going to texture this at least. Now I'm going to take all this excess off so I can get it out of my way. And then I can fudge with it a little bit more. And keep that because we're going to apply some to the back of that or the other side. There we go, just get it off of there pretty much. I'm just kind of wrapping it around the edges, getting it to stick really, and then I can cut in any more holes that I want or widen any or do whatever. Whatever I want to this I can do. Whatever you want you can do. It doesn't need to be perfect. Your process doesn't need to be perfect. I think that's a thing. Like a lot of times when you do watch videos, they try to make their tutorial look perfect, and then you're like, oh my god, mine doesn't, I'm not doing it the same way they're doing it, oh my god. And that's because they practiced it and everything, and it doesn't need to be a perfect process as long as you're happy with the outcome. That's all that matters, is you're happy with the outcome. I'm just putting on little pieces here or there and smushing it down, and because we're going to use a brush and texture this in a minute. Okay, so then I'm gonna cut some more, or fix my holes. Make that one wider. So if you make them wider, you'll be able to see more of your backing. Like I should just connect these two here. Yep, that was better. Don't worry, I'm going to take a sculpting tool in there in a minute. I kind of feel like these two should be connected. So you can have a lot of wide ones, a lot of little ones, doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter. It's crazy because this look doesn't appeal to me a lot, but to someone else it really does. So, you know, again, it's not always about what you like, it's about what other people are going to like. If you're looking to sell things. Same with colors. Like, I hate purple. I don't know why. My mom is a big purple fan. I don't know why I don't like purple. I just know I don't. So I don't use a lot of purple in my work. But I have to remember, I'm one that doesn't like purple. And purple is going to appeal to a lot of people. And you can put these vertically, horizontally, kind of whatever you want. Now this is quite soft. Probably enough. Okay, so then I'll take one of my silicone tools and kind of just open this up a little bit and smooth things off. Whatever, just kind of something in there to kind of get it a little more refined and smoother. You could use that's not the one I want. You could use a needle tool. Let's try this. Now, because this is so soft, I think before I get all this perfect, I'm going to get the bail in and the back on, so that way I don't mess it up. So let's do that. So whether you want it vertically like this or horizontal, I think I want this one vertically for some reason. I think that's appealing to my eye more. I think I'm going to do this. So I'm going to put the bail on. Just making sure it's kind of straight and everything. That'll probably be fine. Then I'm going to take this other brown and I'm going to roll this back out so I have a nice sheet. Oh, that was way too thin. I had it on a 4 in my machine. I'm like, whoa. Okay. Now we're going to lay this on here. I'll cut this out. I'm going to leave it a little wide so I have a little room to merge around the edge if I need to. And again, we're going to texture this in a second. So just kind of get it there. Get it where it needs to be. We can shave it off. We can sculpt it, you know, using a silicone tool, or some people use knitting needles. And we can get that obviously to butt all around it and together. Half the time I just prefer using my fingers. Just rolling it on my table. And this is a pretty organic look, so I don't mind if there's a little waviness in there, you know? I think it adds to the character of the piece. It is a homemade piece, it's not machine made. Shave off any that you think's too bulky. And now it's all about refining it up. Where's my needle tool? Now I may leave this. Oh, I got a little air bubble right there. I'm gonna take a needle. There we go. Push that air out. Okay. I may leave this for a little bit to cool because it's pretty soft right now. And if I leave it for a little while, it will be easier for me to manipulate it and to really get the front looking how I want the front to look. Calibrated. Oh, that's the name for this. So these are calibrated. It means they're perfectly round. You can buy ones that are not calibrated, and they may be a little wonky, or every one might not be even. I ordered those for mixed media pieces when I was doing mixed media, so I could make my own kind of domed stones without having to buy them because they're really expensive. So then what I'll do is I want my flat sculpting tool. So this is silicone sculpting tool. This one's got like a chisel edge on it. And I tried to find these on my Amazon and I can't, so I'm not quite sure where I even got these from. Could be eBay, I don't know. And I'm just going to kind of manipulate everything to where I want it. I feel bad because she asked me when I made this one for me, or the other one you saw for me, she asked me to make 2 of them, and it's been, like I said, since May or something. She's like, I have a friend who's an artist in another state across the country, and she goes, I like to buy her other people's artwork, you know, rather than something factory made. And she goes, I love that, and I think she will too. Can you make me one? And I'm not a big, and she knows this, I'm not a big person to remake styles because I get bored making them more than once. So it's been a long time. And like I said, the holidays are coming up. Plus I'm going to need to be making stuff for my own family or coworkers or whatever. I don't know. I got to get on the mode of holidays. So I figured this was a good time to make it while I'm waiting for some stuff to come in the mail, so I can show you guys some new things that I'm playing with. And I figured if I was going to do it, I might as well show you what I'm doing. So it's just kind of a very abstract design. There's no real right or wrong. I mean, in art there's never right or wrong. I do not believe that. I believe as long as it makes your heart feel good, and as long as it makes you happy, screw the rules. do half of this on camera. I'll end with this one, and then I'll finish cleaning up the rest off camera, because you don't need to keep watching me just do this. And then when I get each shape to where I want it, I will come back and show you what texture I'm going to use. Yeah, see? So you can really just do whatever you want to do. Yeah, so whatever appeals to your eye. I feel like I might need one to come up here a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to keep working on this. I'll do the same thing that I did over here. I'll do over here until I'm happy, and then I'll be back and I'll show you how we'll finish this up. And again, don't worry about fingerprints and stuff right now. Okay, just get down in there cleaned up and smooth. And again, it's super soft, so at some point I'll let this rest. I gotta go up and change the laundry, so maybe that'd be a good time, but let me finish this step so then when it's resting, all of it's resting. Okay, so it hasn't rested at all. I just kind of want to get it in the oven. So first thing I'm going to do is, so we're going to use a texture, and what I'm going to use for the texture is something pretty simple. I think this is like a dollar store nail brush. You could probably use a toothbrush, denture brush, whatever. And literally, we're just going to tap it all around. You could probably use multiple textures. I'm just going to do some on the front, and then I'm going to do the back, and then I'll probably come back to the front, obviously, because the front's the part you're looking at. Let's see. Now you can use a little toothbrush, a sponge, I don't have my big toothbrush down here. I brought it upstairs to clean the sanding grit out of a pendant. I'm going to push harder in some areas so I have deeper texture, because I will buff this a little bit just to make sure it's smooth and it feels good if like you're wearing it with like a shirt that's like where it's going to be against your skin. That might be an air bubble right there, so I'm just going to see if it is or not. Now that the back is done, I'm going to carve my name into this because I know I'm giving this away. So you could use a stamp, you could use whatever you want, but I'm honestly just going to do with a needle a nondescript. Do it in caps because it's easier. I'm going to put VT, which is the state I'm in, Vermont. Okay. Super easy. I'm going to put that on my baking tile. So now that that side's done, I don't know where this white just came from off my hand. Which is really okay because we're going to be painting over this later. Now I'll make sure my texture's good on the front. And you can spend as much or as little time on this part as you want. Maybe even a little sponge on here too. I think that's a piece from my sponge. Yep. And then one more thing before I finish. I want to take these micro brushes. These we use a lot in the dental field. You could buy these on Amazon. They're just little cotton things. And I'm going to use these to make sure I have no brown, because this brown was leaving smears all over. So I just want to make sure. Let me see, where is my 70% alcohol? So just my regular, you can buy at the drugstore, alcohol. And I have a little brown right here that I wanted to clean off that. The 90% will make it look dull, which is why I'm using just the regular 70. Okay. Take one final look at it. This in the background. Yeah, I'm fairly happy with that. I mean, like I said, you can nitpick this all you want. And then I'll show you what we'll do after this is baked. So because this is the final baking, I'm going to bake this at 275 for a full 60 minutes. And then it will be done baking. Okay, so 275 for a full 60 minutes. So for a full hour, just to make sure, because it's a nice final bake. And then I will be back when that's done, and we'll decide what color we're going to put on the top and the back and finish this guy up. Okay, it's out of the oven now, and this is one we did, and they are very lightweight. So they look a little bulky, but they're not. Yeah, super lightweight. This is the first one I did, this is the second one, and this is, I mean, these were done over 6 months ago, and this is the one we made today. So, yeah, it's pretty well ready to go. I can feel a little kind of roughness on the back, just very slightly around my name. I don't mind the shiny spots. If you do mind that, go ahead and sand or buff it a little bit, but we're going to cover it with paint, so I'm not overly concerned. The one thing I am going to do is just smooth a little bit around my name with my Dremel, with my orange buffing wheel. And these are on my Ambassador store. Just do that real fast. I've showed you how to use this thing many times, I'm sure. I'm just doing it. This isn't really about like getting a high shine on this one or removing the texture. It's just making sure if it's against her skin, it's going to feel nice. Good. This one's sculpting 3, so it definitely doesn't shine up as well. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is take a very small brush, and I'm going to put, I think, a gloss varnish down in some of these to make them a little reflective. Now, I could have painted the whole thing ahead of time, and I believe that's what I did on these, but, you know, it is what it is. So I have some Sculpey Gloss Glaze, so I'm going to use that with this small little brush on just a piece of recycling I have here. You can put it on whenever you want. I try to reuse if it's going in the recycling, I might as well use it. It's a very kind of small brush. It's called Crafter's Choice. So 1/8, 3mm Royal and something, Lang or something. Oops. So I'm just gonna kind of brush that down in there. A little bit. Now this is totally optional. You could have maybe resined it, I don't know, but the problem is if you're gonna put it back in the oven, a lot of the resins don't do well under heat. This will also help seal it a little bit. Oh, my fiance's mowing. I'm only going to do it on the ones that I can fit down in. Yeah, I think that will be good. Okay, and then what I'm going to use for paint, I think I'm going to do two different ones. This is the blue one, obviously. This one I think I'm going to use, I have this chalk paint that I got at Walmart, the folk art, and this one is, what color? Is it plaid? Oh, English lavender. Duh, I'm looking right at it. English lavender. It's kind of this mauve-y tone, which I thought might look good with this purple. And I may also mix it with this silver lining, which is like a gray. We'll see. And then the other one, I think I'm going to use these ones. These are the Impasto by Art Alchemy Finnabar. And these are mint and jade. So I might mix it with these two on this one. We'll kind of have to see. And then I'm going to varnish all of that with the in my head I can say this, but out loud I can't say it. Liquix matte varnish. That's on my Amazon Ambassador store as well. The reason why I have an Ambassador store now is so I can have all my Amazon products in one spot, and when people ask me 50 times a day, I can just put a link and it's all there. Okay, so let me get these shaken up and mixed up, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so I have the English lavender and the silver lining chalk paints out. I apologize, he's mowing, so not much I can do about that. And I'm going to do this one with the purpley background first, okay? Now I also have really coarse paint brushes. These are some of my oil paint brushes. This one I've probably had over 12 years. So I'm going to use these to paint this with, so I get a nice coarse lines. But I can also take my sanding burr to it after, which I'll show you later if I need to. So just kind of light, more dry brushing. And dry brushing is just a painting technique where you don't have a lot of paint on your brush, so tap it off and then just do streaky strokes. Try not to obviously get it down in your grooves. It's hard because it's a long handled brush and I'm on camera. And I'm gonna go vertically with this one. I'm gonna push this camera away and then zoom in a little bit so I can work a little easier. Because this paintbrush is like hitting my camera because it's like it's over 12 inches long. It's a long handled brush. You know, and you want some lighter passes, some darker passes, some thicker, some thinner, kind of like we did the faux wood. You know, I've used this on many art projects. I show you guys on that faux wood one how I used that on canvas or on wood panels that I made like little picture frames out of. But I still want the brown to show through, you know, I don't want to cover up all the brown. So I'm still just using that English lavender right now, and I might add some of that gray. Sorry, I have to keep moving the thing to get the brush handle around. Okay. And then once this dries, now I'm going to go into some of the gray. Once this dries, I'll take my sandpaper to it and scuff some of it off as well. And we'll also be doing the back. So very little paint on your brush. And it is an acrylic paint, so it will change color when it dries for sure. A little bit. They usually dry darker. I like that grayish color, it's actually quite nice. Almost dropped it. Okay. And then what I'll do is I'll flip it. Do the back here, let's see. And because my lines are going vertically, I'm going vertically with these as well. You know, just kind of a rustic, organic feel paint. Some of the grayish color. Nice, loose, enjoy. Nothing too much to stress about on this kind of painting. That's for sure. Don't get on my nails. I just spent all this time painting these nails, man. I don't get my nails done. If I get them done, I'm doing them. Can't pay for them. God, my student loans are more than my mortgage every month. I pay $12.50 in student loans a month. It's outrageous. Okay, so we'll let that one finish drying. It's almost dry already. And then let me get some paint out. Let me get rid of this. I'll get some paint out for the other colors. And for this one, I'm doing the Impasto, which is a super, super heavy bodied acrylic. The mint again, and the jade. Okay, and the jade is more like a teal. So I got some of that out. So just taking a little bit on this. This is a fan style brush, but it's also a coarse brush. And do the same thing. Oops, way too much. Just kind of let it grab everything. So this is the one we made together. This is going to dry darker as well, so I'm going to not use tons of this and more of the light mint. But again, we can always, or we're going to sand it off, some of it. Let me finish the front first. Grab some of this mint. Just tap some excess jade off my brush here. This is also a long-handled paintbrush, so I gotta go like around the camera when I'm gonna change my angle. And I'm going kind of at a flatter angle, so that way it just kind of catches the higher spots. Sorry, I know I'm off camera, but it's really weird to hold it. I'm trying to do the sides a little bit. I had a lady, which I'm so excited for her. She did that wood technique, and she went into some kind of art competition, and she won first place with that. So congratulations, so proud of you. I want people to use it and have fun with it and see what they can do, if they can sell it or whatever. I'm not upset if you use techniques I show you. That's why I put them out there, because I want you to use them. I know some creators get mad when they see people using their techniques. It's like, no, I didn't see my name on that tag from her competition. I didn't see inspired by Katie Gordon. No, I didn't see that, but am I upset about that? Not one bit. I wouldn't want her to put my name on. She created that piece. She used a technique I put out there on free media, and she came up with it. It's her piece. And it's not even a technique I came up with. I'm sure someone's done faux wood before. Faux paint, you know? Okay. Okay, so this one's dry. So let me show you what we're gonna do next. So now I'm going to take my Dremel, and with one of my sandpaper burrs, and I've put these on my Amazon Ambassador page, with one of these kind of sandpaper barrels, we're going to grind some of this off. Try to get a little more texture going. Get some more brown showing back through and scuff it up a little bit. So, turn it down. It doesn't, pretty much all I'm going to do is just drag it across areas. See, like right here, there's a lot of paint. Ready? Just drag it across. Wherever it catches, and wherever it doesn't, it doesn't. So if you go, oh my god, I got too much paint in this spot, sand it off. Sure, you could do like the baby white technique on this, but there's texture, and I want to kind of make sure I keep texture, and this grinding wheel will keep texture, that's for sure. Now this is quite a fine one because I've used it over and over, this sandpaper. So it's kind of worn, which is fine because I can use it and it's finer. I'm still going vertically because I'm keeping with my lines, the direction of my lines. Just like if you were painting wood. I'm just kind of letting it grab where it wants to grab and remove where it wants to remove. Remove more in some spots, less in others. Oh, I'm sorry, I might not have been on camera for a lot of that. This one's still a little wet because this paint's pretty heavy. So I'm going to wait for that one to dry. And then once it's dry, I'll show you what we'll do. Let me just take like a brush here and try to brush off any of this. sure there's no dust, because we're also going to need to varnish this now that we have paint on it. And then she can pick from the 3 of these which one she likes best. So there's this one. This was the first one I ever did, and this one I went sideways with. And then this was the second one I did. And this is the one we created today, which actually is my favorite. So the back's still a little wet on that one, so we're going to let that dry. And I will be back. Okay, it should be dry now. I just cleaned my bathroom in the meantime. Am I the only one who cleans their washer? Is that a weird thing? I have a top loader, but I have a man who works in construction. Around the top, all his dirt gets stuck, so I clean my washer. That might be a weird thing. I don't know if I'm the only one that does that, but anyways. So I put on a different bit. It's a new one, so it's a little more coarse. And I'm gonna do this one here. Just kind of letting it bounce along. To reveal some more of that brown. I think that's enough. Take a brush and brush it off here, and then we're just gonna apply varnish to it, and then these will be done. Nothing too complex about any of these. They're fun, and you can probably get a lot of different looks out of it. Here's the one we made today. Here's the first one I ever made. That was the second one. Okay, and I'm going to use the matte varnish. And pretty much I'm just going to be coating the outside just to seal in the, except for I need a brush. Yeah, let me get a brush. Hang on, I don't have one close by. This will seal in the acrylic paint so it doesn't wear off as they wear it. And I'm using kind of a fluffier brush. This is quite a liquidy varnish. It's like skim milk. But it's a matte finish, so I think it'll look nice. So no resin involved in this one. And I'm keeping my brush very flat so I don't go down in. And that will also decrease your paint strokes, at least when like I oil paint. If I go flatter like this to the canvas, it keeps my decreases my strokes, visibility of my bristles. This stuff does actually dry fairly quick too, which is kind of nice, because I will be doing the front and the back, and the sides as well. Kind of coming from both directions, so the texture, it gets down in the texture. Let me do the back of this one. So, you know, however you want this to look is up to you. If you want the back to be perfect, make the back perfect. If you want everything to be really, really smooth, make it really, really smooth. I kind of wanted it to be like more organic, like almost like a stone, but yet like a wood stone. like someone took bark and made a piece of jewelry about. I don't know. Just something fun and different. And if, say, you get a little of this varnish down in one of the grooves and it makes it dull, you can just apply a little more gloss varnish to it, down in there. And I may apply just 2 coats of this, just to be sure it's nicely coated and I didn't miss anything. Especially since I know I'm not keeping this, because like say if I'm wearing this and some of the paint comes off, I can always just paint it again, not a big deal, you know. But since she wanted one for herself and a friend across the country, I gotta make sure it's gonna hold up. You know, I want people to be able to wear these for years and years and decades, you know. I don't want this to fade in 5 years. I want this to last 10, 20 years. Would be my goal. 30, 40, 50. So we'll see. Okay. And this is a water-based product as well. It's acrylic varnish. Okay, so this is really all I'm going to continue doing until I get 2 coats all over the thing. And again, I'm going with whatever my painting strokes are. That way if I get a little texture, it's going in the direction of my brush strokes. Okay, so I'm going to keep doing this, and when I'm done and they're all dry, I'll be back. Okay guys, so I believe they are done. I'm pretty happy with the way they look, and I hope she will be too. So here's this one here. Here's this one here. And And here's the one we made. So just a nice, simple, nothing really hard about it. Sorry, I just switched over file because I had too long of a video, so it might have glitched there for a second. But I hope you enjoyed this. So either way, it's one of the first pendants I ever made, and now I'm remaking it for someone. But you know, if this was enjoyable for you or inspiring for you or helpful, please like, share, comment, show me what you do with it on my Facebook page, which will be in the links below. But the name is Katie's, K-A-T-I-E ''S Polymer Clay Friends on Facebook. I love to see people's work, and if you have any questions or anything, please ask. We have a great group. We all just share, and really no judgment, you know. It's a great group. So feel free to show us your work. I'd love to see what you come up with this, because I'm sure you guys will come up with some really awesome looking things. You know, this is just a pretty basic design here. Anyways, I will see you guys next time. Bye.